Hey everybody, Shadow Phoenix here. Welcome to the weekend and back to Planet Coaster. We are here in Crystal Gardens Park, back in our wilderness section. That's actually what I'm going to start calling this section. It's not really a frontier or a western section or anything like that. It's more just like a wilderness section. It's kind of got like frontier undertones, like Wild West undertones kind of thing, but it's more of a wilderness section, more akin to like Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, that kind of thing. It's it's not really western; it's just more wilderness, and that's kind of what the theme is for this entire section of the park. But anyway, I digress. I have decided to do a Eurofighter. And I decided on this after watching a bunch of videos of Canopy Lake, which is a fantastic little small park that somebody said that my park was kind of, this was back then when I was streaming this one and doing this before I actually even got to this coaster. So somebody had mentioned that it has a very Canopy Lake feel to it. So I started like doing some research and stuff on it. I'd already like looked at Canopy Lake, and maybe that was maybe why it started to look kind of like Canopy Lake, is maybe because I was already previously, like unbeknownst to me, kind of getting that kind of feel from it. But yeah, I guess I'd already seen some stuff. So I went back and I researched some more, and I decided to do a Eurofighter because they have this one there called, I believe it's Untamed is the name of it. It's a really, really cool Eurofighter that they have. So I wanted to do a Eurofighter, and originally this was going to be a western, or kind of like a western themed gigantic like wooden coaster back here. Originally I had planned for like an out and back kind of thing, but I changed my mind and decided to do this Eurofighter. I took a ton of inspiration from Canopy Lakes on this one, including all the way down to the station. Before we get into talking about that, though, I do want to kind of point out the elephant in the room there that just kind of happened. Yeah, that's right. There was only about a minute of footage, maybe 2 minutes, actually about a minute and a half of footage of me actually building the coaster itself. Again, I'm pretty sure that footage got lost when I lost my hard drive. So it went kind of from just doing the beginning of the coaster over to doing the station. Which is fine, because the coaster itself isn't too drastically different than what, most of these Eurofighters kind of look like. It's not exactly a clone of like all the other Eurofighters, but the one big thing that it does kind of have on it is the beginning of the coaster, which was that kind of like, I guess I want to call it a figure 8 pattern, where it comes down and kind of goes around through 2 helixes and then up into the lift hill. So it's got a little bit of a kind of a thrill before you actually hit the lift hill. I kind of like doing sometimes things like that. And anyway, I lost the footage of the construction of the coasters. But you guys will get a great look at it here at the end of this video. I'll go through and do my usual little kind of like POVs and stuff of the park and what it's done there at the end. But yeah, back to the station, which is what my opinion is the best part of this coaster. I was just trying to experiment with a couple things, and I was like, Untamed has this like really cool station, right, that's made out of a lot of wood and stone, and it's got these like I don't know if they're like bones or tree branches. I'm thinking they're tree branches, and they've kind of like, they litter the interior of the station and kind of make it look like it's like a very, very wilderness, basically, like one of those old lodges, like a hunting lodge is kind of what it resembles. And I kind of was trying to capture that as well, and ended up getting this really cool effect by using these tree branches, these dead trees, and then I kind of covered up pieces of the arches that hold up the roof in those, and it came out really, really, really well. The other thing I was trying to do here was figure out how I was going to do the actual queue line. So I have this little section of the coaster that kind of goes up and kind of like an overbanked turn, and somewhat of an overbanked turn. And I thought, well, let's bring the queue line underneath of that. So let's have the overbanked turn go over top of the queue line, which came out pretty good. I liked how that worked quite a bit. And then we had to figure out how I was going to do that with the pieces that we have. So, had to figure that part out. As you can see here, that one little, the angled roof that they gave us, it's like a one-piece angled roof. It doesn't really fit too well there. So, for the bottom of the coaster station, I used my favorite wall that's probably in the game. And that's this, I believe it's called rough brick is what they call it. It's more like a creek bed stone, which honestly, if I ever built like my own house, I would use this kind of stone on it because I love this. I always have. Back in high school, I took an architecture class. Well, it was more like drafting class, but I was supposed to do some architecture in it, which is why I took it. And towards the end of the year, the teacher said we weren't going to be able to get into the architecture section, but he let me do my final project in architecture and kind of did some like personal teaching, I guess, in that just for me, and helped me do quite a bit of that. And to be honest, I still actually have those plans as well. Like I drew the entire plans for like my dream house, and I still have those plans somewhere at my old house. Along with a lot of my old artwork and stuff from college and some of my projects and stuff I did there. So I still have all of that stuff, which is really cool. So yes, I did take somewhat of an architecture class. I had always intended on doing architecture as a career, but at the time that I was in college or getting ready to start college, none of the schools near me taught architecture. So I decided to do graphic design instead, and graphic design is kind of what I went into for about a year and a half. Then I switched out to communications. Thought I'd be a DJ because I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing all this work in graphic design and stuff, and this isn't going to take me anywhere. I'm not going to get a job doing this. So I switched off and did communications, and I ended up getting married, and well, that was that. So, but yeah, I'm just kind of talking about the stone and just kind of rambling. So this stone texture is one of my favorite textures of the walls and stuff in the entire game. And you'll notice that I love using it quite a bit on almost all my designs. I try to fit it in there. Like, I don't like to use the same kind of walls everywhere, but it always ends up being that same kind of wall. So, yeah, that's just how it worked out. So as far as the queue line and stuff, I also included a lot of the same principal designs that I used for the actual station building into the queue line as well, which you will see here shortly. I also kind of threw in this little kind of like grove area, I guess. It's kind of like a half circle path right there. Kind of a viewing area. I threw that over in there so people could kind of come over in this little, kind of a mini plaza, I guess you could call it. Now, I do apologize for how fast and stuff the video is going. This is about 3 days of work that I kind of condensed down into about a 15-minute long, probably about a 16-minute long video. So I did have a lot of compressing and stuff I had to do to make this fit down in a time frame that I wanted to do. So I do apologize about how quick some things move around there. I know you guys hate that. I hate it too. Sometimes it's necessary. That's just kind of what happens when you do these time lapses. Now you'll notice for the actual roof arches, I kind of did this like tilting kind of like half circle kind of thing. It's very curved. I used these small wooden poles. I think they're 1 meter pieces, and I angled them just slightly enough to kind of get a semicircle kind of look there, which worked quite well in this case for this entire station and the queue line. This entire coaster, really, it worked really, really well for. Somebody pointed out that the branches kind of look like bones, which wasn't the effect I was going for, but I guess it works. They're more just supposed to be like wood, just like dried wood, kind of like birch, I guess, is kind of the effect I was kind of going for. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could consider them to be bone as well. I really haven't figured out the theme of the entire coaster other than just kind of like wilderness. That's pretty much the idea from it. Originally, like I said, I took so much like inspiration from Untamed at Canopy Lake and stuff for this coaster that when it came time to actually give it a name, I couldn't think of any other names for this. I think I ended up actually just like calling it Untamed because I couldn't come up with any other names for it. If you guys have any thoughts, put them, for a name for this coaster, definitely put them in the comments below. If anybody comes up with something good, I will use it for it. I'm at a loss right now, so for now, I think I'm just going to leave it Untamed. I could call it Wilderness, which is kind of a play on words there. I could maybe do that. And maybe kind of have wild kind of in that capital letters and the wilderness in kind of smaller letters. Kind of just put an emphasis on wild, I guess, in the name of it. We could do something like that, but I don't know. So the rest of this video is just basically going to be adjusting things to make them fit. Like this little section here where it comes out of the double helix. I don't call it the double helix. It comes out of that and goes up into this little building. And then it hits the lift hill from there. So I had to adjust that a little bit to make it because I just thought that it was just way too close to the sides of the actual trains. So I had to increase that and make that a little larger. And then, of course, just putting on wooden trim and stuff around the station itself, and then finishing up the rest of the queue and all of that. So that's pretty much what the rest of this video is going to be. Also, continuing the stone walls and stuff down on the ramps, the exit ramps and entry ramps, all of that. Really, I mean, the entire station just came out so beautiful from what I originally intended. I still think there's room for improvement on it, but considering I didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do before this, stations are always one of the hardest parts for me because I never know how I want to do a station. I have to always figure out how to work it around the queue line. And when, of course, we have these huge platforms that, Planko makes us use for the coasters, I really wish we had smaller platforms for those, but, it is what it is, and it's something we have to work around. So I have to work around those, and then the queue lines, the exits, the entries, and it's really hard to kind of come up with good ideas for stations that, are just kind of new and different, or even generic for that matter. And anybody can take a couple of 2-meter angled roofs and put them on top of a coaster station and then call it a day. But to really come up with something original and unique and different, it takes time and it takes a lot of creativity to kind of do that. So with this one, I definitely think I outdid myself on this. But again, like I said, there's always room for improvement, and I still feel like it kind of needs something. Even today, when I'm looking in this park right now, I still feel like it needs something in it. I just don't know what. But I like it. I like how it came out quite a bit. And I hope you guys agree with me on that as well. So we don't have too much longer left in this video. I've talked about a ton of stuff. I've talked about pretty much everything about the coaster. Let's talk about that loop actually in the background that you kind of see there. That thing, to get that almost a perfect circular loop like Eurofighters have, took me a lot of time. That was a lot of effort on my part to get that like that. It's a completely custom loop. Obviously, it's not an in-game loop. And to get it just like a perfect circle, because a lot of loops are teardrop loops, but not so on Eurofighters. Eurofighters are almost a perfect circle. It's really cool how those actually look. So to do that, on my part, I don't do a lot of custom elements myself. Most of the time, I just kind of use what's in the game to achieve the effect I'm looking for, which sucks because then you can't really smooth out the entry and exits into those, presets, I guess you could call them. So it's always best to do your own, but sometimes you just, in order to save time and effort, it's just best to use like a corkscrew or something that's already in the game. I also wish we could kind of custom do our lift hills and stuff in these too to get those drops and things as well, but we can't. So these fences right here, I really like these fences that I made up. They're made out of like a bunch of rocks and the wooden poles and stuff to do what I kind of wanted. The only problem is if you use them too much, they do kind of get to the point where it's just like you can tell that it's fake because the stones are exactly the same all the way down through there. So you kind of have to figure out a way to make them different. It's difficult, but yeah. And I ended up doing like all of this entire area in these as well. I didn't really switch off and do anything else. I really liked how the fencing came out though, and really this might be maybe one of my favorite coasters I've done in the park so far. But I've done so much great work in this park. It's my favorite park. I love working on it. I hate when my autosave screws up and I lose everything, but I do love working on park. But anyway, that's going to be it for me for the day, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. And look here in just a moment, you will see the showcase. And let's take a look at what we've got finished so far for this little coaster here. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Hey everyone, if you'd like to help support me and my channel, I have a Patreon page where you can do just that. You can pledge anything from $1 or more. Anyone who pledges $15 or more gets a unique, specially designed roller coaster and Planet Coaster made just for them. My little way of saying thanks. You can also just send donations as well if you don't want to join Patreon. You can find those links in the video description below. Every tiny red cent I make from these means the world to me and is extremely helpful. If you're interested in my PC setup that I work with and play on that you see here, every piece of the system is described below with links to Amazon if you want to purchase them or anything else. Thanks for tuning in to my videos and my channel. If you aren't already a subscriber, click that on the screen below. And you can also check out a few of my other videos on the screen here as well. You can keep up to date on what's going on in my own little world via Twitter or watch me stream live on Twitch as well. Links are in the video description below. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night.